Yeah, right now, as you can see, gymnasts at Authority Gymnastics are wrapping up their practice. However, this morning, the same building was the homeroom for many students who, instead of having homeroom at home, they decided to log on to their classes to learn right here. Despite the changes, Hotbox has been able to stay open during the pandemic. But when you walk outside, yeah, Jordan, right now behind me through this gate, there's about 8 stations set up by the Missouri National Guard where they can vaccinate up to 8 cars at a time. This afternoon, Governor Parson said 600,000 vaccines statewide will be given out by the end of this week, and he says the numbers are still going up. In fact, he says the overall state allocated vaccines have increased by 5%. While some elementary students are going into the classrooms today, many other students are still logging online to learn. This is one of 11 locations where residents can drop off their recycling. And as you can see right now, someone is doing that and some of them are overflowing. 34 states have mask mandates and Missouri is just one of 16 states that don't. I spoke to one public health expert who talked to me about how a mask mandate could change the track of the virus in Missouri. Walking around downtown Fulton, you can only find a few stores requiring or even recommending masks to enter.
If I'm going to go to Walmart, I'm going to sanitize my hands, I'll put my mask on in the car, and then I'll walk. But I will admit, as soon as I am out that door done shopping, that mask is off.
And downtown Fulton isn't the only town that decided against a mandate. In August, Dr. Deborah Birx of the White House Coronavirus Task Force came to Jefferson City. She spoke with government officials about creating a state mandate to help with rising COVID numbers.
What I think is an excellent example from Texas, who had similar, very rural areas that were not impacted as greatly as some of the more urban areas. And small metro areas, which I just described about Joplin, Jefferson City, and Springfield.
Dr. Rajesh Nandi has been studying the rate of COVID-19 in Texas before and after the mask mandate that went into effect July 2nd. It requires masks in counties with more than 20 active cases. Dr. Nandi's most recent study shows a 23% decrease in the spread of the virus since June.
So we observed like a stop in growth in number of new cases, and from then on, we had a slow but steady decline in the number of new cases.
Dr. Nandi says if Missouri followed Texas's mask model, it would only benefit the state.
Kind of like a low-hanging fruit. So the only price you really pay is probably a lack of comfort, I guess.
According to Dr. Birx and Dr. Nandi, a lack of comfort in a mask mandate could make the difference in flattening the curve. Governor Parson recommends social distancing and masks, but rejects a statewide mask mandate. Reporting live in Jefferson City, Erin Davis, KOMU8 News. As viewers logged on, Dr. Margaret Day answered questions and squashed myths surrounding the vaccine.
Serious reactions from the vaccine are very rare. So look at that less than 1% in the vaccine group and in the placebo group for Pfizer.
She also made these points. The vaccine is safe for immunocompromised or pregnant people. The vaccine will work against new COVID-19 mutations. If you've already had COVID-19, it is still recommended you get the vaccine. And the only reason Dr. Day says you shouldn't get the vaccine is if you've had an anaphylactic reaction to it or any of its ingredients.
Now, we plan to transition to those next phases here just in the next weeks. I will point out that phase 1A efforts are ongoing, and we don't necessarily need to complete a phase before moving on.
Columbia resident Jeremiah Shipman says he's ready.
I don't have questions. My concern is that everybody does embrace the vaccines.
As crews begin setting up tomorrow at Faroe Field, where vaccinations will take place, Shipman is also looking ahead.
We're all going to come out in the future and look back at this as a time of unification, not a time of division.
He says unification in a time of uncertainty may seem hard, but thanks the doctors for making it possible. In Columbia, Erin Davis, KOMU8 News. If you drive down Broadway, you'll find empty pockets of buildings. John is a commercial realtor.
The retail market's been under stress for several years because of online sales and that sort of thing. And I think this has just moved that very much faster forward.
Hannah Gray works at Hotbox Cookies in downtown Columbia and says she feels the effects of being one of the only spaces still open.
Friday night we'd have lines to the door, people lined up outside for the bars, and now it's just like we'll have a crowd or two every now and then, but we've definitely seen a huge decrease in that foot traffic that there used to be.
Despite the changes, Hotbox has been able to stay open during the pandemic. But when you walk outside, no matter which way you turn, you'll run into empty storefronts. I counted 4 empty spaces in between Hitt Street and 10th Street alone, and when I spoke to the Columbia Chamber of Commerce, they told me they didn't notice a trend in commercial retail vacancies.
So what we have seen, that trend in business as we've gone through the pandemic, is a lot of the maybe businesses that were looking at expanding, holding off on that until we get through this.
According to the database company Statista, national retail vacancy climbed from 9% up to 20% since the start of the year. Locally, according to Plaza Commercial Realty, retail vacancy at the beginning of the year was 6.9% in Columbia. New numbers come out at the end of the year. John is expecting those vacancy rates to go up.
A lot of companies are staying in retail spaces. They may be downsizing as their leases come up, combining stores as their leases, remodeling, closing some.
As COVID continues, storefronts could continue to downsize as vacancy rates trend up nationally. Erin Davis, KOMU8 News, Columbia. This election, over 50,000 poll workers could be showing up at the polls.
Go into the polls and watch very carefully.
It's a major recruiting effort by the GOP and President Donald Trump.
Because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it.
In Missouri, poll watchers are also called challengers, and they're not new. They watch for irregularities and provide oversight.
Poll watchers are a pretty normal part of elections.
But NBC News reporter Jane Tim says a consent decree almost 4 decades old ended in 2017, which now allows for a nationwide party-backed recruitment effort.
But what's really different here is that the GOP is sending so many poll watchers after decades of not being able to.
Democrats are concerned poll watchers might become disruptive. Sarah Brannon of the ACLU Voting Rights Project told CNN she's very concerned. She's worried poll watchers being there might make lines longer and disrupt the voting process. But Boone County GOP Chairman Tony Lupo downplays any potential tension, adding the poll watchers are a part of the state's typical process.
The main thing that they're supposed to do is just sit and watch. They're not supposed to talk to people. They're just supposed to sit and watch and make sure that things are going well.
And if they do have concerns, they can talk to the supervisors at the polling locations or they can call our office.
Boone County Clerk Brianna Lennon explained each party can have a representative. She says usually poll watchers get bored with the process and leave after about an hour. Lupo, however, stresses their importance.
As a poll worker, I'm doing poll working, and so, the idea that somebody's sitting in the background kind of watching will just keep me on my toes and make sure I don't get a little lax during the day.
And with this high-stakes election, the poll watchers will be under the microscope as well. Erin Davis, KOMU8 News, Columbia.